In today's video, we're going to be talking about Interstate 5, one of the most busiest and important interstates in the country. And what exactly are we going to be talking about? We're going to be talking about the way the route goes and the way it is signed, and also what its importance and significance is in the country. So join us. Before we go any further, I was just wondering if you guys wouldn't mind subscribing. It really helps out, and I can keep on making better content. We start here at the U.S.-Mexico border in Southern California, where I-5 starts at the Mexico border. You can see that as soon as it starts, I-805 is created and is a spur route that goes through suburbs of San Diego. You can see from the start that I-5 North is signed for San Diego, which it should be as we are not anywhere near the downtown yet. However, I-5 South just gets a through traffic kind of thing at every single interchange. There is no mention of it going to the Mexican border at all. Here at the end of California 75, still south of downtown San Diego, I-5 South doesn't get a control city here either. I-5 North stays with San Diego, but I-5 South gets absolutely nothing. Further north, when I-5 meets California 54, just south of downtown, there is no mention of I-5 South going anywhere, but I-5 North is still signed San Diego if anyone wants to know. Here at the other end of California 75, I-5 is signed south for the road that's next exit, and I-5 North is still signed for downtown San Diego. There are a few signs where I-5 South is signed for Chula Vista, but it's very rare. Here where California 163 meets I-5 in downtown San Diego, I-5 North is signed for Los Angeles, which is a great job on their part. But I-5 South is signed for Chula Vista. That is a mistake. It should be Tijuana or Mexico. There are some really great views on I-5 in downtown San Diego, but a lot of it is underneath bridges and stuff, but this is one of the best views you can get. Before we go any further, let's just discuss I-5's route and I-805 because it's a spur route. I-5 goes through pretty much downtown San Diego and the coastal suburbs, whereas I-805 goes more inland and hits the suburbs that are more inland and hits more of the highways at the same time, and they're both pretty good routes. Here at I-8, where at the end of it, we can see that I-5 North is signed for Los Angeles and I-5 South is signed for Roscrans Street because that's the next exit, and then it is eventually signed for downtown Los Angeles. The next part I-5 goes through is the northern San Diego County part of I-5, which is mostly just oceanside, and then it is rural and you can actually see the ocean. It's very nice because you pass through some really far north suburbs and then you just go through the ocean part of I-5, which is the only one of its whole journey. This is one of many views from the oceanside part that I mentioned where you can actually see the ocean in Camp Pendleton. In this area, most of the signs are I-5 South San Diego and I-5 North Los Angeles. After we're out of that 8-mile beach area and really past San Diego, we enter the Los Angeles metro area, which is made up of a lot of spurs, including I-605, 105, and 405. And we also have Los Angeles, and I-5 goes through most of it, starting in the southern part of Orange County, going all the way to the northern parts of Los Angeles County. The southern end of PCH, aka California 1, we see that I-5 North is signed for Santa Ana instead of Los Angeles, which is a really bad idea considering that San Diego County loves signing Los Angeles. So I think it should definitely just be Los Angeles, no Santa Ana, maybe as a secondary, but definitely not as a primary. And here at the end of California 74, it is indeed I-5 South for San Diego, which is what it should be. Here on the south side of downtown Santa Ana, we see that I-5 is signed south for San Diego and north for Santa Ana. Because we're not in the downtown yet, but this is still not right. It should be north Los Angeles and south for San Diego. Here is the Discovery Cube in Santa Ana itself. I-5 also passes right by Disneyland, which is really cool, and as you can see, this is one of the many exits for Disneyland. Here where I-605 meets I-5, I-5 South is signed for Santa Ana, which makes a little bit more sense in this direction, but I don't know if I'd still go with San Diego or not, but I-5 North is signed for Los Angeles, which it should have been since San Diego. The East LA interchange, I-5 North is signed for Sacramento, which is a big leap, but it's probably the best idea it could take since it doesn't really pass through any major cities, unless you count Bakersfield, which it narrowly borders, so I wouldn't count it, but I think Sacramento's the right move there. The northern side of the East LA interchange, I-5 South is still signed for Santa Ana, which I don't know if I still agree with that, but I think from here, San Diego is kind of elite, but I guess it might work, so either one would work here. This is one of the best views you can get of downtown Los Angeles from I-5, because it just goes around downtown, it doesn't actually go in, so this is one of the best views. Here in the northern suburbs of Los Angeles, we can see that I 5 North is signed for Sacramento and I 5 South is signed for Los Angeles, and it is known as the Golden State Freeway north of Los Angeles but south of Sacramento. As far I 5 goes through is very, very rural. It's mostly grapevines the whole way there, and it is like there's no cities it passes by till Stockton. So this is mostly mountains, and then it is just rural the whole way there. This is probably the most important interchange I 5 has in this area. It meets California 99, which heads to Bakersfield and Fresno, and should probably be the main line of I 5. But they are planning to make it into an actual interstate soon, Interstate 7 probably. And this is really important because it goes to Bakersfield and more importantly Fresno, whereas I 5 does not. At random 13-mile apart interchanges, it is I 5 North Sacramento and I 5 South Los Angeles. California 152, we see that I 5 North is signed for Sacramento and San Francisco because of I 580, which will soon come. And we see that I 5 South is signed for Los Angeles, which should be. This is what most of I 5 looks like in this area. Here, where I 5 meets I 580, I 5 is now signed north for Stockton and Sacramento, whereas I 580 is signed north for Tracy and San Francisco. And also, I 5 South is still Los Angeles. Just wanted to mention that. Nothing new there. So, yeah. I 5 does momentarily leave its rural state while it goes through Stockton and then it enters a little bit of a rural area before going into downtown Sacramento. After that, it is more rural, as we will get to. This is how you can get a view of Stockton from I 5 North. See here in downtown Stockton that I 5 North is signed for San Francisco and I 5 South is signed for San Francisco and Los Angeles. San Francisco because of California 4. Here in downtown Sacramento, I 5 North is signed for Redding and I 5 South is signed for Los Angeles. This is how downtown Sacramento looks from Interstate 5. North of Sacramento, I 5 goes into the Redwoods and passes through such cities as Redding and Eureka. So there's not really much up here, but yeah. North of Sacramento, I 5 is signed north for Redding and south for Sacramento. South should definitely be Sacramento, but I'm thinking north might as well be Portland or even Oregon at this point, but Redding it works. Here in Redding, I 5 North is signed for Portland, which is good job, and I 5 South is signed for Sacramento, which it should be as well. This is pretty much how all of I 5 looks north of Redding in California. Going into Oregon, we do not get any sort of welcome to Oregon sign, we just get a county line. Going southbound, however, you get first of all a goodbye Oregon sign, and then you get a welcome to California sign. It's really wonderful. In Ashland, Oregon, which is the first city in Oregon, we can see I 5 North is now signed for Medford, which is a mistake. It should be Eugene, Salem, or Portland, but definitely not Medford. And I 5 South is signed for Eureka. It should be probably Sacramento or San Francisco or just California, but definitely not Eureka. In Medford, I 5 North is signed for Grants Pass, which again, not a good choice, and I 5 South is signed for Ashland. But I think it should definitely be north. It should be Salem or Portland, and south should definitely be Sacramento, San Francisco, or just California at this point. Before we go any further, let's just discuss I 5's route through southern Oregon. It starts out at the California border, goes north through Medford and Grants Pass, and then it goes up to Eugene, where there is this route of I 105. In Grants Pass, we can see that I 5 North is signed for Portland. Good idea there. And I 5 South is signed for Medford. Not a good idea. That should definitely be California at this point. This is the kind of stuff you see in I 5 when you are driving in Oregon. In Roseburg, I 5 South is still signed for Medford, and I 5 North is for Portland. Here in Eugene, I 5 North is signed for Portland, and I 5 South is signed for Roseburg. That should definitely be Redding, Sacramento, even Medford from here, but definitely not Roseburg. Definitely should be Sacramento or something California. We should probably talk about why I 5 was made now that we're roughly halfway through. It was made off of US 99, which went from British Columbia to Tijuana, and I 5 was really used for many things, connecting Seattle, Portland, Sacramento, Los Angeles, and San Diego. Really, it's a really useful route, and it was really useful then. It's even more useful now, but I think this route is really important, and I just thought we should discuss why it was made, and it was part of the original plan. The next part I 5 goes through is more of rural Oregon until we hit Salem, and after that, it's a little bit more rural, and then we hit Portland. We will go more in detail about the Portland part, but yeah, other than that, it's pretty much pretty rural. Here in Salem, we can see that I 5 South is for Eugene, which makes sense, and I 5 North is for Portland, also makes sense. Finally, some good signing in Oregon. And then we enter the Portland metro area where I-5 has two spur routes. I-205 goes east and goes through the eastern suburbs going north as well, where and then it meets I-84 and then crosses the border into Washington and then meets up with I-5 after that. I-45 is more of a downtown loop. It goes around the western side of downtown and then meets up with I-5 still in Oregon though. So yeah, they're both important, and we should notice that the Washington Oregon border is right near downtown, so it's pretty close. Here at the southern end of I 205, we see that I 5 North is still signed for Portland because we are nowhere near the downtown yet, and I 5 South is signed for Salem, which makes perfect sense there. Here on the south side of downtown Portland, we see that I 405, since that's going to head to the city center and more of the downtown area, is signed for city center, whereas I 5 is now signed for Seattle and I 84, which is good signing. I don't know why Northern Oregon can sign faraway places, but Southern Oregon just has a big problem. But, well, what are you going to do? This is one of the best views of downtown Portland you can get from I-5. This is on the, I believe it's pronounced Markham Bridge, going across the Wilmette River to meet I-84. Here at the end of I-84, I-5 South is signed for Salem, good job there, and I-5 North is signed for Seattle, great job. Crossing the Washington-Oregon border on the Columbia River, there is no welcome sign going either way. Going north, just it's not a nice one, it's just a now entering Washington sign, and then going southbound is just now entering Portland city limits. So it's not neither of them really welcome to the other. And here in southern Washington, it is the same thing. Southern for Portland and northern for Seattle. After Portland and Vancouver, Washington, I-5 goes through more rural Washington until we get into the Olympia metro area. This is what most of I-5 looks like in Washington. It's not too much different from Oregon and Northern California. It's just trees everywhere. Here on the south side of Olympia, we see that I-5 South is for Portland and the next town over, and I-5 North is for Olympia, which is the next town north, and Seattle. Once we enter Olympia, we enter the most urban part of Washington that we go through. We go through the cities of Olympia and Tacoma to start off with. And in these cities, there is a lot going on. Olympia is the capital, and in Tacoma, there is a spur route of I 705. Here in Tacoma, at the end of I 705, we see that I 5 North is signed for Seattle, and I 5 South is signed for Portland. Good job. Washington is really just doing great right now. After we hit Tacoma, we enter the Seattle metro area, and in this, there's one spur route of I 405, which creates an eastern loop around Seattle that goes around the eastern suburbs and then meets up on the north side of Seattle. And I-5 goes straight through downtown. Here at the southern terminus of I-405, I-5 South is still Tacoma and Portland, I-5 North is Seattle. Here in downtown Seattle, where I-90 ends at I-5, I-5 South is signed for Portland, good job there, and I-5 North is amazingly signed for Vancouver, British Columbia, which is a really good idea, and I can't believe they've done that. That's a great job on their part. An I-5 view of downtown Seattle. Here at the northern end of I-405, I-5 North is signed for Everett and Vancouver, and I-5 South is signed for Seattle. And at random interchanges, it is 5 South Seattle and 5 North Vancouver B.C. And just like that, we arrive at Canadian border crossing, where after that, it is British Columbia 99 that takes over. So yeah, that's the end of I-5, folks. Recap before we end this video, there are 3 states I-5 passes to. Those are being California, Oregon, and Washington. And I-5 has tons of spur routes. Starting out in the north, we have I-405, which is the loop around Washington, and I-705, which goes to Tacoma. And in Oregon, we have 3, with I-205 being the Portland connector, and it also goes into Washington for some time. We have I-405, which goes around downtown, and we have I-105, which goes into Eugene. And in California, we have tons. We have I-505, which is the 85 connector, and then we have I-205, which is a 585 connector, and then we have I-405, which is the outer loop of Los Angeles, I-605, which just goes through suburbs of Los Angeles, and I-105, the LAX 605 connector. And then in San Diego, we have I-805, which is the spur route of 5 that goes around the suburbs. Thank you to everyone who's watched this video. Make sure you like, subscribe, and tell your friends if you really enjoyed this. Thank you.